Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figure It Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today I want to do a video on our friend the Nintendo Switch, kind of an update video. Before we do that though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all my social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, I really appreciate that one, Spreadshirt, as well as my travel channel called Flying and Eating. All that sort of stuff is in the description. Thank you so much for the support. Now, this video is going to be kind of an update video on a video I made back in March, which was about the anniversary of the Nintendo Switch. Every year I do that type of thing for the major consoles, just kind of talk about what the last calendar year had been like, what the future was, gonna behold, all that sort of stuff that I thought might happen, etc. Just an instant little recap of the year, right? So, I don't normally do stuff like this, but there was an interesting milestone with the Nintendo Switch that I kind of thought was worth talking about because of I don't necessarily consider myself a historian, but I do like to consider myself a fan of history and moments and all that sort of thing. In that video that I'm referring to, I discussed the possibility of the Nintendo Switch eventually possibly catching up and becoming the most successful video game system of all time. That metric being that it would have sold more units than any other system ever released. Currently, the title holder of that is the Sony PlayStation 2, sitting at a comfortable 155 million units. Second is Nintendo's DS, which is sadly at 154.02 or 0.2, meaning it's only 800,000 units behind. And then of course the Nintendo Switch, which this is the update, has reached 130 million units. Now 130 million units is stunningly impressive, and apparently a lot of this was off of the back of the success of Tears of the Kingdom, the new Zelda game, for those who don't know but know what a Switch is. But yeah, basically at the end of June, that's the marker they were at. So keep in mind when you're seeing this video, the July figures and what little of August has happened and potentially beyond, depending on when you see this, have not been accounted for. So the big question is, can the Nintendo Switch actually become the highest selling console of all time? Now, when I did the video before, I said that, and I still believe this, that was possible. It's definitely within the reins of reality, but at the same time, it's very unlikely it's Nintendo's actual corporate goal sitting down like, all right, everybody, we're not doing anything else until the Nintendo Switch is the highest selling system of all time. It would be very unlikely where the market demands like, hey, we need a new system, we have to move on, the Switch is too old, it's been around too long, we're losing customers, and some diehard at Nintendo's like, no, we have to stick it out until the Switch is the #1 system. Nintendo's weird, but I don't think they're that weird, because if they were, they would have kept the DS around longer to eventually pass the PS2. Keep in mind, this thing only lost by 800,000 units. That's not a huge number on console scales, but keep in mind right now, the difference between the Switch's success and the PS2's is about 25 million units, which, for reference, is the entire lifespan of the original Xbox. It has to sell all of that still to eventually possibly beat out the PlayStation 2, just to tie it, not necessarily surpass it. We'll see. But the question is, how possible is that? Now, they got a huge boost from Tears of the Kingdom, as I mentioned before. That game itself sold like 18.5 million units, again, by the end of June, and I guess they sold a bunch of units out of it. I mentioned back in my video in March that I thought they had to do some stuff like that, because one of the big tricks with the Switch is people seem to really like to buy multiple units of it. Now, ironically, this doesn't apply to me, and I say ironically because like I have multiple PS2s, I have multiple DSs, I only own one Switch. I'm sure I'll get more as time goes on, it's just currently how it goes. But, I think that if they came up with some random limited editions, that would be a good way to kind of eke out a few more sales. I mentioned I thought it would be cool if they did a GameCube decal one, especially if they do more with the GameCube Online, Switch Online, and adding GameCube support, or if they did more re-releases. Now, incidentally, they have actually done more re-releases. I know they added some Pikmin stuff, and I know there's some other stuff on the way, but it's not impossible that that could happen. Now, even that, I'm not sitting here saying a GameCube version would actually sell like gangbusters. You'd sell multiple millions of units. No. But a few 100,000, not impossible. There's a lot of us who would probably buy that. Hell, I would actually consider it. Especially if it was the OLED model, etc. But yeah, it's interesting to see where that could actually go. Now, I will say this. 25 million units is still a big hurdle. That's a lot. And I fervently believe the Nintendo Switch is not going anywhere anytime soon. I do not think that Nintendo's like, hey, I mean, there's always rumors. Keep in mind, there's always rumors, and you have to stop with that. Nintendo is very good at internalizing its plans. So every time you hear about, my cousin at Nintendo totally told me the Switch 2 comes out tomorrow. It's got 8K, and it runs on Happy Thoughts. Like, stop believing that kind of stuff. You just have to follow economics. I would bet, based on Nintendo's history, that we've got at least a few more years of this being their primary thing, and knowing Nintendo, they'll just kind of drop it all at once, because that's just what they do, as far as, like, here's an announcement, oh, and here it is. It's very rare, although, ironically, they did announce the Switch 2 years early, but that was only because of the, the situation the Wii U was in, which was, it was a disaster, financially speaking. When Nintendo has a successful system, they never talk about its successor until they absolutely must do it. So I don't think you're gonna, if you hear rumors, just throw that away. It's not true. So that being said, while the Nintendo Switch is highly successful, it's highly unlikely they're going to suddenly start changing their minds on what to do with it. We definitely have all the way through this holiday season of 2023, for sure. 2024, I would bet they're still betting on the system, and they're just going to stick it out for a while. I don't think they have any real reason they have to actually put out a new piece of hardware. They should in the technological sense. I know developers are bugging them about it, people are bugging them about it, but at the end of the day, if you keep buying it, they'll keep selling it to you. That's just supply and demand. That's how that's going to work. So my final thought on this, before we go, on the idea of can it actually beat the PlayStation 2, is you need a few more boosters. Now, the Tears of the Kingdom was a pretty significant one. You can have your little special editions and things along the way that will help get some repeat customers back in there. But it's kind of hard to sell the Switch as a new product to people who have not had one before. Without some significant alternate options. And you've intentionally gone out of your way not to have mixed media. Part of why the PlayStation 2 was so successful was, of course, the DVD playback and the era in which that came out. That was a huge thing for a lot of your casuals. Now, we have to acknowledge that, by the way. The Nintendo Switch did that solely on the backs of games and not on any sort of additional, perks and benefits outside of, I think there's YouTube access on it, but, that doesn't really matter anymore. So what else can they do? I don't know if there's any other major Nintendo games that can actually sell a ton of units, save one, a Mario Kart 9. If Nintendo announced a Mario Kart 9 for a Switch, I guarantee, it sounded like I was from New Orleans there, I would guarantee that would suddenly sell a ton of additional units. Now, could that be a thing? Yeah. I kind of believe that Mario Kart 9 is not impossible. In fact, I would bet on it being inevitable. I mean, it's been almost a decade since Mario Kart 8, but they keep making money off Mario Kart 8, hence we haven't touched it or got a new one yet. But I would bet you a Mario Kart 9 might be the finale game, the finale big game for the Nintendo Switch before they start to get ready for the next one. That's kind of Nintendo's recent history. That's how they tend to like to do things. So I guess what I would say is, look out for a Mario Kart 9, because if that happens, that's probably the big thing that might attempt to boost it over, but it's also probably the last major title. Not saying you wouldn't still get other Nintendo titles, just nothing on that upper echelon console system seller type of game. But that's purely a guess. And you're probably wondering, like, well, okay, that's cool. So basically the news here is they're up to 130 million units. Yes, ultimately that's what this is about. And the reason I want to talk about it is just because I find it fascinating. I find console history fascinating. And the idea that this is it, guys. This is the top 3 selling systems of all time. The PlayStation 2, the Nintendo DS, and the Nintendo Switch. And if you're that guy out there saying, they're pretty close, they can make it, keep in mind, again, the Nintendo DS was really close. It only fell behind 800,000 units. That's it. 800,000, and they didn't make it. If their goal was just to make it go over the hump, they would have stuck with it, even if it was costing them, just to eventually get that. That's not how companies work. So it's not a guarantee by any means the Nintendo Switch will eventually overtake the PlayStation 2, but not impossible. So we'll see. Do you have any suggestions on anything that Nintendo could do? Do you own a Nintendo Switch? How many do you own? I'm curious what people think about this, and if anybody actually thinks they can do it, or if you fervently believe, no, they cannot do it. I'm genuinely curious. But again, the divide here was only 800,000 units. The divide here is the original Xbox. That is a pretty significant chasm. Not impossible, but very difficult. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys could do me a favor, again, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and again, check all the social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon. Again, Patreon, I really appreciate that. We might end up losing Rob on the podcast because we're falling below the tier. So if you could help me out there, I would really appreciate that, because I love being able to make content for you guys. Also, check out my travel channel and check out my Spreadshirt if you want to buy shirts or merch or whatever. It's all there. All the stuff's in the description. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.